Welcome to our deep dive. We're cracking open Jordan Peterson's Beyond Order today.
Oh, a good one.
Yeah, this one's packed. We'll be focusing on personal responsibility mainly.
Right, meaning the structure and chaos balance, all that.
Exactly what you wanted to explore.
Peterson's a good fit for this kind of stuff.
Totally. It's psychology, philosophy, he even throws in mythology.
A unique approach, for sure.
It is, so let's jump right in.
Okay, sounds good.
Rule 1. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement.
Quite a mouthful.
It is, but basically respecting these things, it's crucial for us.
Not just blindly following rules, right? It's deeper than that.
Deeper, yeah. It's about how we view these structures psychologically.
Makes sense. If we're always tearing things down, we lose stability.
Right. It's like we need something to push against, some
And
structure.
Find ourselves against. I get that.
He even tells this story, a client who felt meaningless in his work.
Oh, interesting.
But once he saw the value he was adding, things changed for him.
Like a shift in perspective.
Completely. If we think everything's pointless, we feel aimless.
Right. But seeing the good, even in the system, can be empowering.
Absolutely. So, under Rule 2, imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at that.
That's powerful.
Right. Ambition, self-improvement, all that. But what single-mindedly mean?
Good question.
Do we abandon who we are now?
He's not saying discard ourselves completely. I don't think so.
Okay.
It's more like envisioning our best selves.
Our potential, yeah.
Exactly.
He uses stories a lot to explain this. Pinocchio, Harry Potter.
Ah, I see. Becoming the real boy, so to speak.
Yes. Overcoming challenges, reaching our full potential, wizard or not.
Stories as frameworks. I like that.
They help us grasp these big ideas, for sure.
Definitely.
And that leads to Rule 3. Do not hide unwanted things in the fog.
Ooh, this one feels relevant.
Very. It's about responsibility. Facing tough truths, not ignoring them.
Not letting things fester.
Right. And he tells this story, a client stuck in a terrible job.
I've been there.
All these nonsensical rules, she felt powerless.
Oh, I feel that.
But instead of complaining, she saw an opportunity.
To make a change.
Yes. Like this learning styles thing, Peterson debunks that in the book too.
Interesting.
She pushed back against it, small act, but brought meaning.
Standing up for what's right.
Exactly. It shows we have agency, we can make a difference.
I love that.
And that ties into Rule 4. Notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated.
Stepping up, taking charge.
Exactly. A call to action. When there's a void, we can fill it.
Makes sense.
Okay, rule number 5. Do not do what you hate.
Simple but profound.
Right. There's more to it. It's about values and actions aligning.
So we don't end up resentful.
Yeah, he uses this example, a company obsessed with PC language. They debated if flip chart was offensive.
Seriously.
I know, right? But Peterson says this masks a deeper problem.
What's that?
Lack of meaning in the work itself.
Instead of fixing that, they're focused on superficial stuff.
Yeah, soul-crushing environment for everyone.
Makes you think about where we choose to work.
It does. He even advises leaving jobs that make you truly miserable.
Even if it's risky.
He thinks staying is more damaging.
Wow.
It links back to that first rule, respecting achievement.
Finding work that resonates.
Right. When it aligns with our values, we're more engaged.
Even if it's hard.
Exactly. Hard work can be meaningful.
I see the connection.
Now, Rule 6, this one might be controversial. Abandon ideology.
Ooh, that's a hot topic.
It is. But he's not saying reject all beliefs. It's more nuanced.
More about not blindly following.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideologies oversimplify can lead to rigid thinking.
I can see that happen.
And he links this to resentment, blaming, scapegoating.
It's division.
He even uses examples like Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union.
Showing how dangerous it can get.
Exactly. He's calling for intellectual humility. No ideology has all the answers.
Being open to different views.
Yes. Challenging our assumptions, being willing to change our minds.
It's about honesty and avoiding dogma.
Absolutely. Which brings us to Rule 7. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens.
I like this one, a call to action.
It is dedication, hard work. They unlock things.
What kinds of things?
He tells this story. A waiter inspired by Peterson's work.
Okay.
He decided to work as hard as he could, got promoted 3 times in 6 months.
Wow. Dedication pays off.
It does, sometimes in ways we don't expect.
Peterson's saying we underestimate our capabilities.
We do, but effort is key.
Effort and a little inspiration.
Exactly. So those are the first 7 rules, a lot to unpack.
A lot to think about.
The core theme, I think, is personal responsibility for meaning and fulfillment.
A thread throughout his work, for sure.
He believes we can shape our destinies, not just be victims of circumstance.
Taking responsibility empowers us.
It does, and that leads perfectly into his next rule.
Can't wait to hear it.
But we'll save that for part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, looking forward to it. Yeah, that responsibility thread, it does lead right into the next rule. Try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible.
This one threw me off at first. I was like, interior design.
Right. Seems out of place.
But there's a deeper meaning. It's about creating beauty as a metaphor.
I see. So it's not literally about decorating.
Not just that, no. It's about bringing order and meaning into our lives.
Through beauty.
Exactly. Even in one room, it's tapping into that creative potential.
Imposing order on chaos.
Yes. He talks about being an art collector himself.
Oh, cool.
Spending years on eBay, finding Soviet realist paintings.
Wow.
And filling his home with them made it truly meaningful for him.
So personalizing the space.
Making it reflect, yeah, it's something anyone can do.
To cultivate meaning, I get that.
But he's honest. He talks about struggling to keep his office tidy.
Relatable?
Totally. It shows it's an ongoing effort maintaining beauty.
Not a one-time fix.
No, it's constant. And speaking of refinement, he then talks about art itself, like Van Gogh's irises, showing how art elevates our consciousness.
Makes us see the world differently.
It gives us a glimpse of something eternal beneath the surface.
Art as inspiration.
He even talks about visiting Russian museums, the reverence people had.
Even if they didn't understand the art fully.
It suggests there's something inherently powerful about art.
Deeper than just intellect.
It touches us emotionally, spiritually, connects us to something larger.
I feel that, for sure.
All right, moving on to Rule 9. This one's for anyone who's dealt with tough stuff in the past.
Let me guess. Therapy?
Kind of. It's, if old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely.
Processing those old wounds.
Confronting them, not letting them haunt us.
Making peace with the past.
He's not saying dwell on it, but understand, integrate them into our story.
So how do we do that?
He gives a technique. Write them down in detail, all the feelings, sensations.
Putting it on paper.
It helps make sense of the experience, see it in a new light.
Like journaling, I've heard that can be helpful.
There's research on it, reduces stress, emotional regulation, even boosts immunity.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He tells a story, a client haunted by childhood abuse.
That's heavy.
Through writing, she reframed it from an adult perspective.
Powerful.
It released the shame, the terror that was holding her back.
Shows we can heal.
We're not defined by the past. We can learn and move forward.
That's hopeful.
It is. And speaking of moving forward, Rule 10, this one's about relationship.
Oh, here we go.
It's plan and work diligently to maintain the romance in your relationship.
So love takes effort.
It does. We can't expect it to just last on its own.
Gotta nurture it.
He tells this funny story about an unbearable date.
Oh.
He and his wife decided to be totally honest about their needs, even if it was uncomfortable.
Radical honesty, huh?
It was, but he says it's essential for trust and intimacy.
Being vulnerable.
Exactly. He even says maintaining romance is a matter of life and death.
Wow, that's serious.
He believes a strong partner helps us through challenges, keeps us from bad choices.
Makes sense. Our relationships are vital.
They are, but they need care, like anything valuable.
True. So what's next?
Rule 11, this one tackles some common vices. It's do not allow yourself to become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant.
Cultivating virtue, resisting those negative urges.
He argues they can poison us, relationships, our whole sense of purpose.
Strong words.
He dives deep into resentment, says it often comes from injustice.
Feeling wronged.
He gets it, but cautions against letting it consume us.
It festers, right?
He calls it self-destruction. Holding on to anger hurts us more.
Makes sense.
He even connects it to Cain and Abel, resentment leading to violence.
That's a heavy example.
It shows the consequences for us and those around us.
Forgiveness as the antidote.
He encourages healthier ways to cope, cultivate compassion.
So what about deceit?
He says lying erodes trust, even small lies. It damages us.
Honesty is key.
Especially self-deception. It blinds us from seeing clearly.
Our conscience as a compass.
He uses that analogy. When we distort truth, our compass goes haywire.
We get lost.
Exactly. And finally, arrogance. He says it's blinding pride.
Prevents us from seeing our flaws.
Humility is the key. Admitting mistakes, seeking feedback, growing.
That's tough for a lot of people.
He quotes Proverbs, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom."
Recognizing our limitations.
Approaching life with awe and reverence, there's always more to learn.
Always a student.
Okay, rule 12. This one's about perspective. It's be grateful in spite of your suffering.
Gratitude, even when things are rough.
He's not saying ignore the bad, but choose to focus on the good.
Finding the silver lining.
He gets personal here, talks about his wife's health, his own struggles.
Opening up.
He felt pain, despair, but emphasized finding those moments of gratitude.
Even in darkness,
He says it's an active choice, not a passive feeling.
we choose to be grateful.
It's about shifting our perspective, finding meaning in suffering.
Like that post-traumatic growth idea.
Exactly. Sometimes the toughest times make us stronger, more resilient.
We rise from the ashes.
And now, for a rule that might surprise you, do not bother children when they are skateboarding.
Okay, this I gotta hear.
It's not about skateboarding literally. It's deeper.
I figured.
It's about letting kids take risks, explore their limits.
Giving them freedom.
If we overprotect them, they don't develop resilience, independence.
They need to fall to learn how to get up.
He calls it anti-fragility, getting stronger from stressors.
It's an interesting concept.
He says kids are naturally like that, but our culture stifles it with safety.
Too many bubble-wrapped kids.
And he says, this applies to adults too, we need challenges to grow.
Embrace the risks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A little adventure keeps us evolving.
So what's the next rule?
This one's a little gem. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
Now that's specific.
It's about finding joy in the everyday, simple but profound.
Appreciate the little things.
He says it acknowledges the beauty of nature, even in urban life.
A moment of connection.
He even calls it mindfulness, grounding ourselves in the present.
Being in the now.
Now, for a rule that feels like a core moral principle, do not do what you know to be wrong.
Living with integrity.
Exactly. He says, when we knowingly choose wrong, we damage ourselves.
Our conscience takes a hit.
It leads to guilt, shame, inner turmoil. It weighs on us over time.
Our choices have consequences.
They do. For us and others, he's saying, build a strong moral compass.
To guide us.
Rule 16, this one's about humility. It's assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
Openness to learning.
Everyone has something to offer. We can gain insights even from disagreement.
Even from children.
He says, yes, they have fresh perspectives.
Makes you think.
It's about curiosity, respect, not assuming we know it all.
Humility over ego.
Rule 17, this one's about communication. It's be precise in your speech.
Especially important today with all the misinterpretations.
He says it avoids misunderstandings, helps us think clearly.
The power of words.
He links language and thought. The words we use shape our perception.
Makes you consider your vocabulary.
He even suggests learning new languages expands our minds.
Wow, language as a cognitive tool.
It is. It can clarify or obfuscate. He says use it intentionally.
That's personally and publicly.
Okay, rule 18. This one's about risk. It's do not avoid dangerous undertakings unnecessarily, but do not fail to attend to the risk.
A balanced approach.
Not reckless, but not timid either. He uses the tightrope walker analogy.
Daring and cautious.
Growth requires stepping outside our comfort zone, but be smart about it.
Calculated risks.
This next one might be a bit controversial. It's about parenting.
Oh boy, here we go.
It's do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Setting boundaries.
He's saying kids need guidance. Allowing bad behavior doesn't help them.
Tough love.
He says we have a duty to discipline, teach right from wrong.
It's easier said than done sometimes.
He acknowledges that, but says boundaries are essential in the long run.
For their well-being.
Rule 20, this one's about relationships again. It's do not transform your wife into a maid.
Equality in the household.
Marriage is a partnership, not a hierarchy.
Sharing responsibilities.
If one person does it all, it breeds resentment, imbalance.
And less romance, I bet.
He says it can lead to that feeling like a roommate instead of a lover.
That's sad.
It is. It's about contributing equally, sharing life's burdens.
Makes sense.
And this leads into Rule 21. It builds on an earlier idea, remember, do not hide unwanted things in the fog.
Yeah, about facing tough truths.
This one's similar, but it's do not hide inappropriate things in the fog.
So facing our darker side.
Being honest about our flaws, mistakes, even our darker impulses.
The shadow self.
He uses that term. He says hiding it creates sabotage, undermines us.
Like a ticking time bomb.
It can manifest in bad ways, addiction, infidelity, even violence.
We all have that potential.
He's not saying it's inevitable, but denying it won't make it go away.
Face it head on.
With courage and compassion, integrate it, seek healing.
So acceptance and growth.
Okay, Rule 22. It echoes an earlier one, but adds a layer. It's notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated.
Taking initiative, right?
It's about being proactive, seeing a need, and filling it.
Making a difference.
He uses his home renovation as an example. Saw potential others missed.
Opportunities are everywhere.
They are, but it takes action to make them reality.
What's the next rule?
This one's about building strength. It's do not do anything that makes you weak.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
It is, but it's about mindfulness, the choices we make, the habits we form.
They shape us,
He says things that are harmful, addictive, they diminish us.
holding us back.
He thinks our culture promotes weakness in some ways.
How so?
Instant gratification, consumerism, entitlement, all that.
Makes sense.
He challenges us to resist those temptations, build strength and discipline.
Self-reliance.
Rule 24, it's familiar, but with a new emphasis. Imagine who you could be, and then aim single-mindedly at that.
Dream big. Go for it.
It's about not letting fear hold us back. Our imagination is powerful.
Envisioning a better future.
Setting goals, working towards them, we can achieve anything.
Believing in ourselves.
He says, even striving for a worthy goal brings meaning, whether we reach it or not.
A journey matters.
And lastly, a rule about trusting ourselves. Do not pay unnecessary attention to the opinions of others.
Not letting others define us.
It's about inner strength, not being swayed by judgments.
Easier said than done.
He even says seeking validation can be narcissistic.
Interesting take.
It's about needing approval, he says, build a strong sense of self.
Make decisions based on our values.
Not what others think. So that's all 25 rules from Beyond Order.
I got to digest.
It is, but it's about navigating chaos, building a meaningful life.
And taking responsibility for it.
Absolutely. We're not just individuals. We're part of something bigger.
A grand narrative.
And that's something we'll explore in part 3 of our deep dive.
That narrative idea, yeah, it's central to Beyond Order. He says we're all in this cosmic drama.
Order versus chaos. Good versus evil. The classic battle.
And finding our place in it, that's where the meaning is.
He uses fairy tales to illustrate this, like Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, interesting choice.
The evil queen, she's chaos disrupting the kingdom.
And the hero restoring balance, classic archetype.
Exactly. He says we all have our dragons to slay, inner demons to confront.
Our own hero's journey.
And that's how we grow, overcome obstacles, find meaning. He even ties this to the power of stories.
Not just for entertainment, then.
No, he says they're essential tools for understanding the world.
Our place in it.
Stories help us make sense of things, find meaning even in suffering.
He gives stories a lot of weight.
He does. He says the greatest stories, myths, legends, they hold deep truths.
About the human condition.
Our fears, aspirations, struggles with good and evil, it's all there.
A roadmap for life, in a way.
So after all this, after Beyond Order, what are the key takeaways?
Well, personal responsibility shines through. That's a big one.
We have the power to choose our response, shape our lives.
And finding purpose, that's crucial too.
In work, relationships, creative pursuits, it gives us direction.
He doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either.
No, he acknowledges suffering. It's part of the human experience.
But we can find meaning in it, even redemption.
If we face it head on, that's the key.
It's a powerful message. Even in darkness, there's hope.
It's about making conscious choices, ethical choices, shaping the world.
That's a lot to ponder.
It is. But that's Jordan Peterson for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found something to take with you.